The jacktails are tall tales about the jack, and a lot of them are centered right here in Appalachia. One of the group of stories I call Tom Tales, which are tall tales like jacktails, but they're all about Tom. And I heard them from Tom. You see, Tom is my dad. Greatest storyteller that I think I will ever know. And so what I have for you today is called Tom Tale number 2, The Hunting Party. Now I come from a long line of ethical and responsible hunters, people who hunt to eat and eat what they hunt. My mother was a hunter. Being the middle child of 3 girls, my grandfather pegged her as a resident tomboy, and he made sure she knew everything she needed to know about the woods and everything she needed to know about guns, which for him was quite a bit because he was a gunsmith himself. And when she got old enough, she'd go hunting with him, and she'd usually bring back something. A lot of times it was spruce gum, you know, that sap that comes out of the trees that tastes like teaberry gum. But about every other year, she'd bring home some medicine. I was a hunter. I got my hunting license one year just so my mother and her then second husband and my boyfriend could get their doe permit, because they needed 4 licensed hunters to do that. But we all agreed that I would not carry a gun. I wasn't experienced enough, I wasn't good enough at it, and it just wasn't a good idea. But I did go hunting once. Came home from college one weekend, my boyfriend decided we needed to go hunting. We got up Saturday morning, there was a fresh blanket of white snow on the ground 4 inches deep, and he figured even I could track a deer in that. So out to the woods we went. We were walking through the woods and we found the tracks. He says, all right, he says, now you track the deer, and I'm gonna cut around and you drive it toward me and we'll be all set. Okay. So off he went and I started tracking the deer. And tracking the deer, but you know, it was cold, but it was a bright sunny day. And I'm tracking the deer. And I'm tracking. Hour and a half goes by and I look up and there's my boyfriend. He says, what happened to the deer? I said, I don't know, I tracked it. We walked back around and he showed me where about 50 feet from he left me, the deer had doubled back and watched me track it. Like I said, I went hunting once. The real hunter in my family was my daddy. He loved the woods, and his daddy taught him everything he knew about the forest, the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains. He taught him the difference between rabbit tracks and squirrel tracks, where to tell how the deer had lain in the soft grass in the night, where the turkey's been digging, how to tell where the bear's been sharpening their claws. When he was old enough, he knew he had to get a gun so he could go hunting with his daddy. The year he was 12 was the year. He spent that summer working for the farmer next door, and by the end of summer he had himself enough money to get himself a gun, and he did. He called it Trusty Rusty, because that thing was such bad shape, but he sanded it all up and oiled it all up, and he made sure that sight was true, and that gun became his new best friend. Now, during the Depression, hunting was more than just a way to put our meat on the table. It was a way of making money. These fine gentlemen from the metropolitan city of New York, that were called city slickers, they'd want to come north for hunting, but there was a problem. They didn't know anything about the woods, and they knew even less about hunting. So they would have to hire themselves a guide. And my grandpa, he was one of the best in the business. He liked to take care of his guys. He even put a cabin up in the woods. Wasn't anything fancy, just 4 walls, a little cast iron cook stove, a couple of bunk beds, card table, a few chairs. But to make those city slickers feel comfortable, he borrowed a rug from my grandma and put it out on the floor to make the place look fancy. Well, one time my grandpa had a group coming up from the city to hunt bear. And he was so excited because bear excursions meant good money. Well, they would come up on Friday. Friday came and my grandpa, he was tired. He was feeling a little achy. So he looked at my dad and he says, Tom, he says, you go tell those boys I'll be there in the morning, take them out and hunt bear, will you? My dad, He was excited. He said, "Okay, Dad." Off he went. Well, the next morning, my grandpa woke up and, oh, he was running a fever, and he was aching and he couldn't move. My grandpa had the flu. He was going nowhere. And he was so disappointed because that bear screen made good money. Well, my daddy, he said, "Dad, I can do it. I can take him out. You've taught me where to find the bear, Dad. I'll take him." My grandpa was in no shape to argue, so my dad grabbed his favorite gun, his trusty Rusty, and off to the woods he went. Well, he walked into that cabin and he said, "All right, man, I'm here. Let's go bear hunting. I can take you out." Well, those city slickers looked at my 12-year-old dad and said, "Ain't no boy gonna take us out hunting bear, child. You just never mind." And they went back to doing what city slickers do best in hunting camp, sipping whiskey and playing cards. But my dad was not to be put aside. "I can do it, guys. I know I can. My daddy taught me. I know where to find those bear." And one of the city slickers looked at my dad and said, "Fine, boy, tell you what. You go out and find a bear, you bring it back, and we'll skin it, and we'll be all set." My daddy said, "Fine." And he threw Trusty Rusty up on his back, and out the door he went. And he walked down the road, and then he cut across Stovepipe Road, down over the creek, over to Beaver Pond, and into the deep, deep woods. He was walking about an hour, 20 minutes, and all of a sudden, there he saw it. The soft moss of the forest floor depression about that big. And he looked up, and there was another. And it looks like some bushes had been disturbed, and a few low branches on a tree looked broke off, and he knew he found himself a bear. He brought that gun down over his shoulder, checked to make sure it was loaded, and he started tracking. And he tracked that bear down through the woods about 45 minutes. And he looked up, and there it was. About 30 yards away, this big old black bear just digging at the forest floor. My daddy took Trusty Rusty and put him up into his shoulder real big and took a knee and took his aim. And just as that bear looked up, pow, my daddy let it go. That bullet ran straight and true and hit that bear smack dab between the eyes. Now you'd think maybe that'd be the end of the story, but you'd be wrong. See, I forgot to tell you that old Trusty Rusty was a .22 caliber rifle. And the only thing a .22 caliber rifle's going to do to a big old black bear at 30 yards is make it matter than a wet hand. And that's exactly what happened. That big old black bear reared up, rah, and started after my dad. Well, he threw that gun on his shoulder and he lit on out of there, just running his heart out. And sometimes a bear would catch him up, and sometimes he'd catch up on the bear. He ran and running and running. Finally, he looks up and there he sees it. Salvation, the cabin. And he knew he was home free. He went up the stairs 1-2 steps through the door and fell smack on his face, and he knew he was a goner because that bear was flat on his heels. But you know what? That bear was coming so quick, he went right on over my dad, landed on that rug, and started skidding across the floor. My daddy, being the quick thinker he was, he jumped right up and said, "There's your bear, boys. You skin that one, I'll go get another." Now you might think that's the end of the story, but not quite. See, one of those city slickers was a bit of a quick thinker. And he reached over that cast iron stove and he grabbed a cast iron skillet and he whacked that bear smack dab on the head. So the city slickers got their bear. And my grandpa, he got his good payday. And my daddy got him a bigger gun.